Hey, welcome everybody to the third episode of my process and my creation from sketch to vector to cutting. So today is the cutting episode, and here I'm going to show you just what I do and when I set up and go through the process that I go through. At the same time, I'm going to be recording my screen so you can follow along at the same time, see what I'm doing and see what's going on my screen. Okay, now we're on my screen right now, and what I've already done is I've saved this out as a DXF file out of Illustrator. I do have a tutorial for that, so somewhere around here there might be a link for that video, so go ahead and try that out. If you're having any issues, please feel free to leave me a comment or email me directly. I'm more than happy to help. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and just verify our sizes here. Right now, since I'm working with the portrait, I have the self-adhesive mat and a piece of 651 intermediate vinyl. So this vinyl is already prepped, ready to go, so it's stuck on there. So all I have to do now is put this into the plotter, and we're going to go ahead and get started. So first I'm going to go ahead and set it up and load. Okay, now we're loaded. Now the next thing I want to do is I want to make sure that my cutting settings are correct. So I'm going to go ahead and head over to those settings now. So right over here, we're going to check the cut conditions, everything that's ready for this particular piece. So as you can see, all the red lines here is what is going to actually be cut. And since this is a very highly detailed piece, it will take a little bit of time of weeding, but I'll show you that as well. So we're going to keep going through here. What I like to do is find the adhesive, just vinyl. There we go. So we're going to click on vinyl, standard conditions, nothing too specialized to do here. We're just going to go ahead and scroll down though through the listing here. I set this blade up at number 2 last time I did the cut, and that's the one thing about cutting, is that you just have to make sure that you keep the settings as close to as possible to the ones you previously have done and the things that work. So here's number 2. Okay, so you want to go ahead, there's a little knob thing here that you stick the plotter blade into, and you can move it to 3, 2, 1. So I'm at 2. Okay, so what I want to make sure is that I set up my, lock that into place. I'll set up my blade here at 2. So I'll just click over here. And this is a ratchet blade. Speed, I'm going to keep it at slow. Cutting slow simply because it's a really intricate cut. You have there's a chance that your intricate cut could get cut a little too fine, and you want to make sure that you take the time to go slow, because if you do see an issue, you can pause it, you can pull out that vinyl or something if it gets caught on the knife, or if it gets caught on one of the sections inside. These are all things just to kind of prepare yourself in making sure you have them ready to go. Okay, I'm going to keep the settings pretty much the same. I like my line segment tool off. There's only a few times where I actually want to use the line segment, but we'll go over those when I get to that. In the advanced section, I'd like it to always return to origin. I like it just to come right back to where it was when it starts. I mean, that's just my preference, totally up to you. I'd like to minimize roller movement, so I want it to go as less of a movement as possible to keep the cuts consistent and to keep everything working correctly. So after I've done that, I've gone ahead and adjusted that. Now what I want to do is I'm going to set up a test cut. What I like to do is I'd like to go feed it in just a little bit, just to make sure I am in the right zone, because you can see where the blade is, and you want to make sure that your cuts are going to be on the vinyl. Okay, I have it in a good spot. Cut and go from there. Or I'm sorry, test cut and go from there. Okay, so it's done its test cut. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my knife. I use X-Actos. These are just how I've learned to do this over the years. So that's what I stick with. So just stick with your standard hobby blade. Nothing special with that. And I'll just go in right where the cut was done, and I'll just go ahead and peel up the triangle mostly. Okay, perfect. All right, beautiful. So what you want to see is a nice clean cut, so you can see that triangle piece. Nothing, no like ragged side, no ragged edges, no cuts that seem odd. Just a nice clean cut, and it comes right off the paper too. So that's what you want to see. And they're great little add-ons to your skin or clothes or on your hat. Anyway, so we got ahead, and I'm going to set my origin a little bit more. I'm going to go ahead and feed it in just past where the test cut was, so I don't happen to cut it in the same spot. And then I'm going to adjust my drawing real quick, move it in that far left corner, just so it has a place I can reuse more material after this. I don't have to waste the entire thing. So if I want to do another cut, I can follow up with another cut right after it. So I'm all set here. I feel like I'm ready to go. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the camera and I'm going to position you over the plotter now so you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to go ahead and hit send to Silhouette. So it's generating the file, it's passing the information over. Okay, we're all done cutting. Now we're going to go ahead and go into weeding. Ooh. So, I have here, first of all, I'm going to eject print here. So I'm going to go ahead and spit this out. Okay, and I don't know if you can see it in the light. It's kind of hard to see, but looks like everything cut really well. You can see in these little areas here that some of these finer details may have picked up in the process. So those are obviously things you wanted to consider before you start cutting. I did this fairly small. It's only about 5.5 inches wide by about, I don't know, maybe it's about 5 inches wide, 5.5 inches tall, roughly. So with that in mind, I want to make sure that I keep my details as best as I can. So just so you know, just something to look out for. Okay, now the next thing I like to do is, let me adjust here, is I'm going to go ahead and take this off of its protective thing here. So I'm just going to slowly pull. Now I'm slowly pulling this, okay, just so you guys know. Because if you pull too fast, you could possibly cause a kink in the vinyl here, which will give you problems and issues, especially if you're going to go ahead and tape this afterwards. You want to make sure you have a nice smooth surface to attach everything to. So I like going around the perimeter like this, kind of slowly, until you are able to pull off more and more at a time. This way it doesn't destroy the vinyl, and also cause any issues with the weeding process afterwards. So now I'm just going to go ahead and peel off the middle there, and comes right off. Okay? It may take a minute or two, but it's always something to take care of and make sure you're okay. So I'm gonna set that aside, and first things first is replace the shiny side, which is the waxy side, not this paper side, but the shiny side, face down, back on the mat, just following where the grid lines are. And once you get it flat on one side, kind of lay it down nice and easy. Make sure it's all back on there. And this will protect your sheet for further use in the future. Okay? So you want to put that aside. Next up, I have a little mat here that I use for my kind of my mobile kit. And I'm going to go ahead and now cut out a piece of the cut vinyl and weed away. So I'm just going to trim it down. Now I mentioned earlier in the video that, you know, to make sure you save vinyl and everything, because you never know when a little scrap like this may just come in handy for a really good project. So it's always good to make sure you keep that stuff flat and laid somewhere nicely so it doesn't get damaged. Okay. So for reference, I'm just gonna have the file pulled up just so I can see exactly what it was that I am doing, because you know what, we're not all perfect. We all need a little assistance sometimes. So I like having a reference whenever I'm working on something, just in case I do lose a piece. It's always good to be able to come back around. So I guess the first thing I'm going to do, I like keeping the outside vinyl where it is, because once you start weeding, and I've had this happen a few times, you just want to have a little bit more control of what's going on out here. And if you leave the vinyl around the graphic on there, you can use that in the application tape that you use to apply over holds better onto the piece, because the paper underneath is waxy and it will release from the transfer tape because it's not as sticky as the vinyl. So it's one thing to keep it on there, but I like to make sure I keep at least a border around what it is I'm doing, so that way I have something to hold down the transfer tape afterwards. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and start weeding here. I'm going to start with the inside line first. And the first thing I like to look at too is, as I'm weeding, is how well this is actually coming out. And this is actually very, very good. It's very promising. Doesn't look like there's going to be much issue with that. The entire process should go by pretty easily, and that's just a good good way to know for sure how that's going to go. So as I go along here, I like going after the finer details first, just because I just like getting the little things out of the way, so that way at the very end the bigger things come out a lot easier. So I'm just going to go through here, and I've never really used like a, forget exactly what it's called, but it's it's kind of like a vinyl ring kind of thing that people are using. I've never used one of those. That's because I've always used like exactly like what I have in my hand. So I just stick the vinyl straight to my fingers and move along. I seem to have grown a natural kind of feel for this over the years. So now I'm not too worried about the X-Acto blade cutting me or anything, because I know what position my blade should be in when I'm actually pressing down. here so you guys can see the entire thing complete. And there it is, everyone, your finished decal, complete with test cut. So I do hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope I was able to either inspire you or help you get over any kind of learning curve, anything that you're working through to get your decals done. I appreciate you watching. I will post an Instagram pic of this once I've installed it. I'm probably going to put it on my car window just because it's pretty cool and I really like it. So again, thanks again for everyone that watches and subscribes, and be sure to check out the contest on the Facebook group. If you're not a part of the Facebook group, don't worry. Go ahead and head on over to Facebook and look for Black Cap Design Co. Free SVG group. There you'll be able to enter into the contest, and again I will post links and everything for that as soon as this video goes live. Okay? Thanks again, everyone, and we'll talk soon.